Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm joined again by Tayo. It's been a while, I think. We have some things to catch up on, and I wanted to save it for the podcast, as I just told you offline. So yeah, I've just been wondering how you're doing, and I'd love to speak about some topics that I think are worth exploring. So, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me back on because I really enjoyed our first conversation and I'm so grateful that you offered me an invitation back on again. It's been a while, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think I spoke to you just after the Chino
Yeah.
conference, and yeah, I think I just started going to Speakers Corner, and I was just processing what happened at Chino. Okay, what is this mad conference I was just at? That was magical in some ways, confusing in others. And from that I had conversations with people like Karen, which was surreal, meeting her in person, being on her channel and processing all of that. So it's been a whirlwind, but Paul just the ARC conference just started in the UK today, in London today. And Paul van der Klee is also here. I'll be seeing him probably tomorrow, at the time of recording. So it's if even though it feels like it's been probably a while, at the same time it feels like it was very recent because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the thread from our last conversations are still very much with me and I'm still working them through. How have you been?
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I've been very good as well. I feel the same way. It's very recent, but in a way, things have been moving quite quickly and a lot has been happening. Um, yeah, I think we spoke before the summer, so summer's been great. I feel I had some conversations with Karen, that was really awesome on the corner side of things. And we just had Paul over here in the Netherlands. So we showed him around Amsterdam and The Hague, and that was a lot of fun. And
What
my
was that like?
oh, it was he
I
he
saw on your YouTube short with Paul van der Klee, which was
yeah, yeah, it was
in the rain,
funny.
it seems like.
Yeah, it's just I don't know how the UK is right now, but I also just came out of the rain as well. It's just it's what it is. I was hoping to give him a better
Yep.
better weather experience,
Well,
but
welcome to Europe.
exactly. But it was great. I mean, he's taller than I even thought because I'm a pretty tall guy, but he's even taller. So it's like he fit right in, you know. And it was very nice. I think,
You're Dutchman.
yeah, exactly. It was very natural. Everything. He was very open. He's just like a pastor, you know. That's how he is. That's the vibe he gives, and it's exactly the same as behind the camera. So that's always a good sign, I feel. So that was really it was really special. And also, I live in The Hague, so to show him a bit of the city that I live in was super awesome. And then he spent the weekend in Germany, where my brother got to speak, and my father was there as well. I wasn't there myself, but I'm happy that happened as well. So I'm
Oh,
excited
your
to
father
hear.
was there as well.
Yeah, yeah. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, I'm speaking to him tomorrow, so I'm excited to hear about his experiences. But super cool
Oh, I'm
stuff.
looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I got to meet Cassidy and Andrea. So that was all. It was really cool. Really nice people. Very genuine. Very real connection. So that's really nice. So I'm excited to see how it continues to to grow and come
It's
to
very,
life.
it's very, it's very exciting, isn't it? The way um, the movements, the subculture, we're still working on trying to name what the spirit is, but whatever it is, it's moving and changing through this different conferences. I'm sure this most recent German festival was different to the one last year, and Paul's visit to the UK this time is different to his visit last time. I mean, this time his visit starts with an ARC conference that involves Jordan Peterson bringing all this YouTube personalities together. So there is some kind of movement going on, some kind of subculture, and the part your channel plays in it, the part like just all this interesting participants that are helping to shape this subculture.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super cool. And speaking of the UK, Paul's there right now, and I heard you're organizing some meetups there. And I will just like show it in the screen right now. I'll edit it in because I saw a little banner for it. So I think that will be helpful for people that might be wanting to attend. So that's really cool. How has that been organizing um these meetups?
It's been it's really cool. I I wish I could have attended the German festival, but when I found out that Paul was also coming, well, I sort of suspected he would stop by the UK, and if he was going to, I felt I felt myself responsible to um organize something. Last time he was here, it was uh, Paul, John Van Dunk sort of kicked me into action, like, okay, you sort something out, and that was sort of a good way of giving responsibility and making me so have some skin in the game in
Hmm.
whatever this is and participate somehow. So this time I was a more willing participant, and uh it's sort of exciting the way these things come together because I'm not as conscientious as I should be. I'm not as good with organizing and
Hmm.
all of the reaching out to people, even just replying. I'm terrible. So it's interesting that I've ended up in this position. But the way it comes about is the people sort of pop up and say, okay, I'm interested in I would like something to happen. And if they're in a different city to me, like, okay, um can you sort out a location for an estuary meeting? And if they can, great. If not, then I'll just tell them book a local pub. And it was a first come, first serve thing. The first place that got put onto Paul's itinerary was Edinburgh because Liam reached out very early and was like, I want to show Paul around Scotland. And I was like, that sounds like something that's very much up Paul's street, seeing all these old buildings and the cathedrals, all of the rich history that you can get from that. So that's a good thing to put on the list. I put that on the list. I selfishly knew I wanted them to have an estuary, to be part of an estuary in London, because just so um you can see how estuaries playing out in the UK, which I'm sure is different to the US. So all these different cities, different people from this little corner will message me or message Paul and it will send them to me, and then that's how this events also come about. So I'm sort of put up as like the face of it, but in reality it's just other people like come with ideas and me saying yes, cool, let's do it.
Cool.
So that's how that's been. But it's very exciting.
Really awesome. Are you attending the ARC thing as well or no?
No, the ticket sold out very by the
Yeah.
time I was able to even think about getting tickets. Because it was I had three different things potentially going on this weekend. So the German festival, I could have been in Amsterdam for my friend's birthday
Hmm.
weekend away, but she ended up going to Somalia, going back to Somalia for anyway. And I also could have booked the ARC ticket, so I wasn't sure what to book, and I didn't book anything, which worked out perfectly because it left me free to be able to help plan Paul's visit.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's perfect.
divine providence.
Yeah, that's really cool. I wanted to say one thing about Jordan Peterson as well, because we had one of the guys, maybe fun for the people listening, one of the guys who was at the meetup in Amsterdam. He actually spoke to Peterson the night before for like 4 hours over dinner with,
Really?
yeah, it was crazy. So it was with Peterson, with Tammy, with a Dutch comedian, and the girlfriend of the Dutch comedian, and this guy. It was like super random.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I think he specialized in the Dutch farmer situation, and Jordan wanted to speak to him last year, but he didn't get to it.
Right.
And then they did it this year. It was super interesting. He told us a bit about the conversation because basically this Dutch comedian who will remain unnamed was there with this partner, and they had been together for a very long time, but they weren't married. So then this guy and Jordan started to push him a bit on the marriage thing. And from what I've heard, at the end of the night, he proposed to the girlfriend. So it's like,
What? No.
yeah, yeah. So that's the power of the Peterson, I guess.
Oh
Um,
wow.
Super interesting.
That's
But yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
What a story.
yeah. And this guy was super
Oh, to
interesting
be
as
a
well.
fly on the wall on
Yeah.
I think partly the fact that Peterson's no longer practicing um as a psychologist
Mhm.
means the people that he speaks to like in at those events sort of become his new clients, and he's just going to psychoanalyze you and
Yeah.
tell you what works in and how you should go about it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, at the although I
Whoa. You good?
Oh my days, how did that was that as loud over here as it was
I
over
didn't
there?
hear anything.
Yeah, it's fireworks.
Damn. I just saw like an
Oh, okay.
explosion.
All right, cool.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sat in the garden and I think one of the neighbors just fire launched a fireworks and
Okay.
oh gosh. Um yeah, although I didn't get tickets to the art conference, my friend John he's back in at the conference doing interviews for channels that I think they told me the BBC and so he suggested that even though you don't have to just come to the area where the event is being held, because after the event, a lot of people will go to the local pub to just socialize,
Yeah.
and it'll be a good opportunity to network and meet people.
Cool.
So I plan on doing that tomorrow at least,
Cool.
and also on Wednesday. So I'm sure some stories will emerge from those encounters.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's pretty surreal seeing it all happen here now. I see a lot of like creators now popping out of their little Zoom Zoom holes and just interacting, and it's to me it's really surreal because I don't really admire a lot of let's say like famous people like actors and stuff. I don't find them very special to see like in real life, but to see the people that you watch all the time, let's say like a Vervaeke or Peterson or someone, you see them in real life, that does have something of a difference. And I think even more so when you actually spoke to them, like you had with Karen. Karen explained that to me as well, where she had some guests that she finally saw in real life, and that's just I think it's what we're supposed to be doing to connect, and there is still a big difference between the screen and the real life. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think I completely agree. I just before jumping on, I watched Paul's video on his members channel, just giving a quick brief about his experience at the first day of ARC conference, and it's pretty much the same of all of this YouTube people and now in the same room embodied, and he was talking about being a little bit wary of approaching some of the people that is coming through videos on maybe not so favorably, and it's like, oh, are they? And it's very interesting the game we've all been like sucked into of all of these big figures we've watched on screen interacted with one way or another. When we become in the same room, it's a different energy, and yeah, it's very interesting.
yeah. Also, imagine like being in the room with someone you've criticized like crazy. Like, you know, we sometimes speak of Sam Harris like he's some mythical figure. We just like, or the president or someone. And they were there
Yeah.
like, oh, whoops.
Oh my God. Yeah, I've been given that a lot of thought, and I think there comes a point where as when a person's become like an archetype of an idea in the ritual zeitgeist, where everyone we all play like where we forget that it's an actual person behind there, and we just attach whatever ideal or whatever idea or ideal that we're going against, we attach it to a person without
Yeah.
realizing that, okay, we all instinctively know that every person is more than just one ideal. But some people do play on that. I mean, a lot, like Sam Harris is a self-proclaimed rational god for like to an extent. He's it does his idea does come across as someone that, yeah, I can rationalize my way into over everything. And um to watch him get caught up in a in a place where he's no longer making sense to even rationalists was was funny in one way, but in another, it's like we're all like that. We're all going to end up where some areas where our words don't match up with our previous words,
Yeah.
and having a little bit of more empathy to the person behind the idea might be good for all of us because it's all gonna come around to everyone.
Oh, for sure. I like that though, that idea that we're almost speaking about an archetype instead of a person. And it is true. I mean, it's also much easier to criticize. And I think we do that a lot in this corner in a sense, like criticize or at least see where people are lacking because we're all about like finding well, we speak about Christ a lot. So if that's an ideal, then we're all falling short of that. So
Oh,
identifying that's pretty easy to do, but to actually live up to it, it's a very, very different story. Was that another firework?
yeah. I'm gonna mute myself for a bit. I think another one's about to go.
Okay. See, this is why I think, oh well, no, I think you're good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is why in the Netherlands, like people are complaining so much because in December, this turns into a war zone. Like 31st of December, you come to the Netherlands. Even if they
Really?
ban it, yeah, it's crazy. Like fireworks is like our purge, like in the purge where you get to murder everyone for a day. That's you walk outside, it's literally a war zone. It's the craziest thing. And then the next morning you see just trash everywhere on the streets. So there's definitely some symbolic significance that I think
Oh
Jonathan will be
gosh.
able to.
Get Peugeot on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. Figure this out for us. No, it's. I've never really been a big fan. Like as a kid, you do it, like it's really interesting, and you throw them up, and then everyone tells you you're gonna lose a finger, and you just keep trying to push
Yeah,
it.
I remember growing up in Nigeria, fireworks weren't really a huge part apart from during Christmas. But what I do remember are the kind of fireworks, gosh, the 5 round, 3 rounds, and the this was so stupid. But the goal was just to hold on to it for all of the like if it's a 5 round bang, then if you can do all five, you're a god. If you can get four, that's decent, but anything less than you're a bitch. That was
Yeah,
the game. That's what I remember about fireworks. And it was just, yeah, I never really got into them past those periods.
like
But in the UK, around this time, leading up to November 5th, Guy Fawkes Day, um, there's always fireworks. And also during Diwali, like there's fireworks. Random on a random day. Actually, well, this is Halloween, I'm guessing. So there's always fireworks, and luckily we don't have guns here like they do in America. So you're never thinking, oh, is there a gun or a firework? It's
yeah,
most likely a firework, unless you're in North London or Camden or somewhere you shouldn't be.
yeah, 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 man. Okay, well, speaking about UK and Nigeria, I actually thought about this question before I spoke to you, and it's that what do you like most about the UK and what do you like most about Nigeria? I was curious to hear because I don't know much about either in terms of lived experience.
It's that's a really interesting question, and putting those two things together sort of forces a comparison that I can't get away from. Um, I think I'll start with Nigeria because that's an easier one in a sense because I have I see it through rose tinted glasses. I was a kid. I left when I was 12. So it was the very much formative years for sure. However, there were a lot less responsibility. So like as a kid, your parents, or in my case, my uncles, my auntie, my cousins, sort of shield you from a lot of things, um, a lot of burdens that you become aware of later on as an adult. So um, what I what I love the most was the I was oh god. So I was notorious as a kid for I saw that coming. I should have warned you, sorry. Yeah. As a kid, I was oh gosh, the kind of yeah, it's kind of pretty, the clouds that I formed in the sky.
Oh yeah.
As a kid, I was notorious for just coming home after school and leaving dropping my bag, leaving and coming back late at night because I was going out to play football. So there was a sort of a freedom that when I first moved to the UK, it was very different. Kids just came back after home and jumped on Xbox Live and jumped on Call of Duty or MSN or whatever. That's what it was for the most part. Um, but in back in Nigeria, every day was just get back home, drop off my bag, and I was off wherever I could find a game of football going on and play. So and I got in trouble a lot for it, but at the same time, it was free and I could just roam around the neighborhood with my friends and like what do I get for food? We'll climb trees and pick fruits, and that'll be lunch, and that's just such a like I look back on those times with such fondness.
Mm.
So that'll be my favorite thing about Nigeria. But as far as the UK, it's it's more my favorite thing about the UK is it's globalism. As via being in the UK, I've now got friends that are Somalian, that are Ethiopian, I've got friends that are Polish, Romanian, and that wasn't an option in Nigeria. So my favorite thing about the UK is the broadening of the world that it's afforded me.
That's beautiful. I feel the exact same way about where I live. I think that seeing all these worlds, come together and seeing how people's traditions differ and overlap, it's really a beautiful thing, especially if it's
Yeah,
somehow maintained.
and I agree, but I definitely agree. Yet I feel that's under threat. That's the celebration of unity and multiplicity. Uh, and I think going back to the art conference TLC, I think this is what the my understanding of this subculture that we call TLC is sort of trying to come up with a way to preserve that, to preserve that true diversity
Mm,
and welcome that and shun something that's pretending to be inclusive but isn't.
yeah. It's interesting because in a way it is trying to create a unity without any multiplicity. What it does is it actually creates endless multiplicity by trying to force everyone to be one. That's why people are so confused about their identity. It's just completely scattered. Whereas I think if you have a sense of tradition, you can maintain your multiplicity compared to other traditions, but at least it won't scatter out to a degree that it becomes just the one individual. It becomes groups unified under a bigger group. And
And I think the Christian story is affords that the best. Like the Christian story lives enough room for diversity. Lived again. I've been going to speaker school now. I stopped going to speaker school a few weeks ago. So I've been listening to religious debates and conversation,
good,
and and I've also had to come up with a reason for why I'm a Christian because the Muslims will ask you, okay, like they will tell you all of the things that doesn't make sense about Christianity on the propositional front anyway, and tell you to like like it says in Peter, I think it's First Peter, you have to have a reason and fight. Like, what's your case for believing? So I've had to think this through, and the best I can come up with is the Christian story is the only one that can truly allow for true diversity
Mm.
in the way that everyone claims that they want. And yeah, so all of this, these things have sort of been coming together for me
Yeah.
slowly, a little bit.
I like that you figured out the main value proposition. I mean, that's I think one of the powers of speaking to people that are thinking differently. Something that I feel I have to look for actively to find people with vastly different perspectives. I mean, if I speak to atheists, they won't even understand why I would want unity, you know. Like, but that's why I really like speaking to Muslims because they really understand the mission, you know.
Oh,
Um,
they understand. They
yeah,
really understand, and they take it very seriously. Um, in the ways that a lot of, especially more liberal leaning Christians would think like fundamental, like fundamentalism is to an extent encouraged in Islam because that yeah, it's it gets frisky, especially nowadays with the conflicts in the Middle East. Things are very frisky in London.
yeah, I can imagine. I do think that their maintaining of ritual is what's keeping them together so much, you know. Where I think we think that we can get there with words alone. At least that's what people have thought, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's scattered so much. So in that sense, I really appreciate that idea of um, pray 5 times a day. You know, you have the Ramadan, you have clear things that bind you together as a group, whereas we can take the Eucharist through the mailbox. You know, it's just I don't I don't even know.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, but I mean, we're here and we're trying to figure it out. I am I'm struggling with these questions every day, so I'm happy to to hear from other people's perspectives. And speaking of other people's perspectives on this, I really like to listen to John Vervaeke, and I know you've listened to him a lot as well. Um, I have the fortune of speaking to him next month, which I'm very excited about.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, and I'm coming up with a lot of questions, and I mean, you have a Christian perspective in many ways, but you've also been kind of on the fence or on the other side. So I was wondering first, like, what do you think of Vervaeke's non-theism and ecology of practices as like an answer to the meaning crisis? And maybe second, if you had any other questions for him, you could let me know. Maybe I can like incorporate them.
Um, Firstly, I don't know who I was sharing this with, but I was sharing my interactions with Vervaeke at the conference with someone, and um I'm very sociable, but at the same time also very awkward. So I've got good radar for fellow introvert awkward people, and Viveki just screams out, so I always felt a little bit uncomfortable like approaching him, and like there were so many people wanted to talk to him, but I finally built up the courage to just shake his hand and just say thank you to him because that's all I could do. Um, in terms of I think that the nun I said after the conference, like at one of the live stream, that I think Vervaeke was the most important person at that conference because I think that he's not faking his indecisiveness. He's not faking he's not faking his commitment to the wisdom traditions. Like these are things that he not only finds meaningful, but believes that is the ailment for the meaning crisis, which he accurately named, and everyone else has just been like even out like without knowing Vervaeke, I've heard people in like Christian circles mention the meaning of Christ without knowing Vervaeke. So it's gone beyond him at this point because it pointed to something true. And I think the stance is not a stable one. The non-theist stance is it's not stable. It's not stable. I don't think it's a stable one, but I also don't think he's got any choice but to maintain that stand because that's the truth, and you have to be honest. You have to be truthful. So I truly appreciate that so much about Vervaeke, and his conversations with Peugeot has has done more good to my spiritual soul than a lot of sermons that I've listened to because they both are honest and they go deep and they are wrestling with the most basic questions, which is the nature of reality and how we perceive it. And I would love some like I've gone through a few of their conversations, but a playlist of every of their conversations is like a good course on like perceiving reality. So they've done so much work, and I truly appreciate that. Um, but I do maintain that I believe that stands to be unstable because I would describe it as the the hallway in C.S. Lewis that C.S. Lewis talks about the different rooms and there's a hallway. And I think Vervaeke is trying to build a room in the hallway, which does not make sense. And that's why I say it's unstable. Um, you can stay there for a while, you can from the hallway peek into other rooms. But at one point you have to you can't be homeless forever. We can't be on a quest for spiritual home forever. We have to in a very Kierkegaardian sense, either or make a jump.
Mm,
Yeah,
the leap of faith.
a leap of faith indeed.
That's beautiful. I I find this really interesting what you use, the C.S. Lewis thing of the hallways and the rooms. What are the rooms? Is the room like a home place or
In it, yeah, in it, yes, in the establishment of man, I think it's mere Christianity that
okay.
he spoke about it. And in his in that context, I think it was speaking about different Christian denominations, and he was talking about this book is not going to help you decide which denomination you should choose or why this one is better than that. And it described our denominations as sort of rooms, and the book as him describing the old way of what Christianity is, and all the old way still leads to all of these rooms. So in that context, he was speaking specifically about the Christian faith. In the Vervaekean context, I would expand that more to the non-theist and theist, and all the different rooms could be different religions even. Um, yeah.
All right, awesome. I spoke a bit about Vervaeke with Paul and some of the others. And one thing that really stood out to most all of us was that he's so gracious and he's so true to the Western traditions in the sense of how he acts. And that's been so impressive because to me, you can talk a lot about wisdom and religion and Christ and all these things, but if you act like a bit of a you know like what is the point if it doesn't make you a better person? And he carries it out so well that I just find it extremely inspiring. And also because of that, I take his position so seriously, where I'm really trying to listen and really trying to learn.
Mm.
So so yeah, I have a lot of questions for
What's
him.
been I asked this is a question about Vivek, not really for Vivek, but I asked like I was speaking to Dali, who
Mhm.
shares he sends a lot because she knew I was speaking to you. And I was asking her what's the most the Vivekiism that you use the most in just normal normal day, because a few of his the Vivekiisms are sort of stuck into my brain. Like a lot of my friends know what combinatorial explosion is because I've just used it so many times and explained it to
Yeah.
them so many times. So, are there any of the Vervaekisms that have sipped into your normal conversations?
I don't know if conversations. Well,
Or
definitely it depends like who I'm speaking to. Sometimes I see someone that's very receptive toward these types of talks, and then I go all the way, you know. Like I will pull up
uh,
a lot of things.
you're like
But
a captive audience.
yeah, exactly. But I feel in my daily life, what I've incorporated the most is the internalization of the sage, where I really like I speak to the people that I think have a better perspective about the situation I'm in. So
Mm.
I have a lot of these types of sages in my head where I try to speak to Socrates, I try to speak to Christ. I think about Siddhartha, um, and even like Peugeot, and then I have Vervaeke, you know, because they're all so different in perspective. So that has been really life changing because before I had to speak to people to figure out my problems, and then I would have to make mistakes before I could actually get better. And now I just like I learn within my mind thanks to the sages I can speak to, and it makes me much more capable of handling situations, and it also makes me stop deceiving myself so much because I keep having voices being like, that's not true, don't say that, or you shouldn't have done that, or you shouldn't do this, or usually it's to prevent me from doing things. um, so that's I think the biggest thing. But in terms of things I speak about, I love speaking about Socrates and the way Vervaeke speaks about him. I really like Plato. Like I've read a lot of Plato, pretty much everything I could read. Um, so that has really stuck with me. His love for Socrates really translated to me in a sense that I really understand, that I really appreciated it. Um, but yeah, I don't go up to people speaking to them about combinatorial explosion. I
Combinatorial
usually,
explosion.
I'm more like sometimes you just have too many options. Okay, so it's chaos. So I try to bring his
Yes.
language down a little bit to wherever the person I'm speaking to is at,
Mhm.
because usually it's applicable.
It's yeah, I think that's that's another thing that makes a lot of these ideas um easily digestible, even though there are a lot of isms. It's because it's applicable, like you said. There is too much chaos for you to apprehend anything. And when you can explain to someone in words that they can understand, they recognize that to be true. And that Vivek has got a lot of those things that you're like, oh, that is true. I recognize that to be true. And it goes beyond propositional knowledge. It's like you've now got perspectival knowledge that he sort of invokes into you. Um, I also find it very interesting you describing the communicating with the sage, and it's it sort of makes helps me to make sense of praying to saints
Mm,
um in a way, because there is that, yeah. 5 years ago my Protestant mind would not have been able to comprehend what you're praying to who, but if that's not Christ, and all of these different things. But through a lot of Peugeot, a lot of Peugeot for sure,
yeah,
as helped me to sort of, okay, all right, and praying to Socrates, praying to Plato, praying to all this, and like having presence in your mind, is that's pretty cool.
yeah. It's really cool because in a way it's real, you know, like when Socrates turns into the symbol of the sage, it becomes real. Because to me, the archetype is real. Um, if you reduce it down to the person and their flaws, then it becomes almost intangible. Like you can't touch it as much. But the symbol for sure. Um, for me with Christ, that really comes alive. Like it's a loving relationship, not as much as like, can I get some advice on this? It's really like this person loves me for me and has done so, or this, I don't even know if I should choose person, but this love has made me into myself and has continued to pull me up and bring me higher to a higher place. And that yeah, that's as real as it gets for me. Um, so yeah, I mean, also the what you said, propositional, the four P's, participatory. That's something I do actually use a lot. Participatory knowledge, especially, like I use it a lot to explain where I'm at, what I find important. I have when I do have religious conversations, I pull up a lot of Vervaeke because he really gives the grammar, he gives the vocabulary for these things. And then, of
Isn't
course,
that interesting?
yeah, yeah,
That Vervaeke, the non-theist, provides the grammar for religious conversations.
yeah. It is super interesting.
And I think that speaks to the truthful, like the fact that he approaches his work in a spirit of truth.
Yeah,
I think truly that's what that speaks to.
I think that Vervaeke made me able to embrace my Christian identity. I told Karen that on the first talk I had with her. It's like in the meaning crisis, he was like, "We cannot go back to religion. That's nostalgic." But he brought me there, so he did do it. It just gave me a different way in. Let's say it gave me a reason, because I heard this recently on a podcast where it was speaking about discipline, and they said if your why is not good enough, you're not going to do it. So if your why for believing whatever you believe, or if your why for going to church is not good enough, you're not going to keep going. And I think Peugeot does a good job of giving a why for church and Vervaeke, but Vervaeke really gives a really good why for religion, even though he speaks about the religion that's not a religion, but he gives a really good why. Like he gives us our due, let's say, as my
Yeah,
brother
and
explained. Yeah.
I also want to like you asked about the Vervaeke's ecology practice as a element for the meaning crisis. I think the ecology of crisis, ecology of practice, ecology of crowd, Freudian slipped there, but what's one? I think ecology of crisis is how we can describe the last 5 years or so.
Oh yeah,
Just one crisis after the other. But
exactly.
Vervaeke's ecology of practice, I think, for me, gives me a reason to take my spiritual practices seriously. And it's one thing was that it gave me a reason to be intentional
Mm.
um with a lot of spiritual practices that I otherwise didn't take seriously, and also allowed me, which I'd always been someone that would pray as I run, but allowed me a reason to like include movement, like think up into my ecology of practices, and thinking all of this as one thing rather than separate things. And so he's and we were both agreeing earlier about how the Muslims and the seriousness of their practices brings a bindness, a religio, and a unity that gives the spirit of Islam fervor. And I think that's something that a lot of nominal Christians are lacking. Um, and I think for me, I didn't get to that through the church fathers and reading the desert fathers. I got through that through Vervaeke's ecology of practicing.
Oh yeah, for sure. I a lot of things pop up now because when you ask me the question, how do you use Vervaeke in your daily life? I'm actually using him so much more than I thought. Now that you're mentioning all these things, because one of the main things that changed for me, um, yes, the embodiment for sure, and with that also, I've started valuing people so much more for their behavior as opposed to their opinions. And
Hmm.
so I used to like spend a lot of time with people that I agreed with, like I had little groups and they were almost based on propositions. And now I don't base any of my friendships on propositions. And it gave me the most multiplicitous group of people that are like completely different in what they believe. Um, but their behavior is the common denominator, one of usually, let's say, people that listen, people that are present, people that are caring, warm. That definitely gave me that lens because you can start to think like a robot in many ways. Like, oh, on paper this makes so much sense, but you forget about all these factors that I think Vervaeke does such a good job of highlighting how important they are. How it's not just the material things or not just the propositional things. So yeah, I owe him I owe him a lot, and yeah,
Yeah, I'm just thinking, yeah, we could have another 2, 3 hours to talk about Viveca's impact, and I still don't think we would do it justice
hmm,
because I'm now thinking of his conversation with someone like Michael Levin on
yeah,
Karen's channel, and just the breadth, his conversation with Rafe Kelly, just the breadth of his work and all of the things trying to pull in together. Um, yeah, all of this is why the only thing I could think to say to him at the conference was just thank you.
yeah,
Um, I don't think I understand even 50% of any of the ideas that he's trying to to bring to the world. But the little I do understand have been so impactful and like he rightly said, changing to behaviors in a way that's dragging me closer to Christ. And I didn't think it would be a Canadian psychologist that would do that, but here we are.
yeah. It's funny they're all from Canada, huh? The three
All
horsemen.
right.
I wonder where that comes from.
Yeah, and even Paul's got some Canadian roots and is
Yeah,
on the streets of Sacramento. Yeah, it's I don't think that speaks well to like the state of Canada as a country because it takes a lot of pressure to produce
yeah,
diamond, and if you're chucking out diamonds at this rate, how much pressure is your
yeah.
is your
Only
country on
absolutely increasing. Okay, I have a lot of different questions for you, but I'm not sure if they align with what we've spoken about before. But still, I'd like to ask you, um, do you,
no, feel free to change track.
all right, do you communicate with God? And if so, what does that mean? Sorry for this question, but it's just,
Oh, I love this question. Oh gosh. Oh, this is we're talking final participation now. All right,
yeah,
okay. Um, I've always, even as a kid in Nigeria, going to multiple revivals, and what these are just prayer events where we pray through the night. Um, I enjoyed my favorite part was when the music and we start clapping and you get men get into groups just start clapping and I enjoyed that part. But the act of praying and talking to God and asking God, um, I'll even as I can remember thinking, I don't think I've got enough faith the way all these people have faith to just like truly believe that they're talking to God and having conversations with God. Um, because God was just so big. Um, and but what I did recognize was the beauty in mathematics, for example, like things like that. I even as I can recognize that this shows God's glory. And I didn't have words to articulate it the way I do now, but those were like like solving or like saying a complex equation seeing an equation go from complex to simple and like that making sense, like, oh, that's beautiful, that's praiseworthy to invoke Philippians 4:8. Um, and in those moments, I feel like I'm seeing the back of God because you can't see the face of God.
hmm,
And I'm still like little glimpses. Uh, but the last year or so, uh, I my prayer has changed. So when crisis mode, when I'm in crisis, either for myself or for friends or family, and like we have to go into prayer crisis mode, when it's now we're just seeking God and just praying for God for a specific person, for a specific situation, those feel like, yes, I'm talking to God, I'm bringing this person's case in front of God. And especially if I'm bringing that person's case, knowing other Christians are praying, that gives me okay, I can add my voice to a chorus of request, just crying out to God. Um, in those moments, I feel like, yes, I'm talking to God. In silent prayer, I am, I feel like I am trying to talk to God. I almost don't feel like I am talking to God. I feel like I'm always just trying to talk to God. And but in those moments, if and this is a big if, I don't do this nearly as often as I should. If I listen enough, I hear God speaking to me more in those moments. Even though I don't feel like when I'm speaking to God, but I do hear like, okay, like usually in forms of correcting that, like these are the ways that you're going wrong, these are the ways that you should go right. And another that this last year I've started a more intentional prayer ritual of in the morning, literally bringing my day before God and say, okay, this is it. And at the end of the day, saying, like, reflecting in prayer. And in those moments, I still feel like I'm trying to talk to God, but I definitely feel like God is talking back.
Mm.
So I don't feel the like if we're talking signal, the signal strength going from me to God is very weak. We're talking one bar, maybe two, but coming back strong 5G full bars,
Oh yeah.
and that's often scary.
Okay. Well, that's a beautiful answer. Thank you. I think it can be
What's your experience? I'm curious.
oh, um communicating with God. I think as a child, I I prayed a lot because I had a really difficult time. And this was also at a time where I had no trouble with my Christianity.
Mm,
I had a lot of fear, and my parents really tried to teach me that God was always there to help me and to watch over me. But I lost more and more of that connection over time, and I completely bought like materialism and atheism and stuff like this as a teenager. So I was so far removed that I don't think I heard anything. And I think upon having some more serious experiences myself, I've spoken about this on the channel that I had a psychedelic experience that at least showed me that there was so much more, but it did not yet feel like one single force. It felt more like a multiplicity of things um, that were communicating with me, but definitely higher powers communicating with me. You can speak of them as angels if you like.
yeah.
Now I have a very personal relationship, definitely um, through Christ, in the sense that I write a lot. That really helps me, and usually I don't need words back. Like for me, it's more putting it out there that that gives me the answer already. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
and
No, I know
yeah,
exactly. I know
yeah,
exactly what you're
exactly.
talking about.
Just consulting Christ. Let's say that's what I do all the time. And I was recently last week I was discussing a book with Karen of C.S. Lewis, Till We Have Faces. It's called, and the main character, she's making a complaint against the gods, and she's invited to present her case in front of the gods, let's say. And she reads out her case, and this is the first time that she actually heard herself speak it, and she realizes how much she lacks. She realizes some of the faults in her own words, and she was so sure about her negative complaint about the gods. And then she was like, I didn't need an answer. Like I understood as soon as I finished. Like at some point she had a moment where she kept reading it, and then she was just like, okay, now I get it. And I feel the same way. It's like I put it there and I'm like, oh, I've been so stupid. It's just a peace I get in my heart once I've spoken my thing out.
Yeah.
And that's a communication, but it's not a speaking or verbal thing, let's say, for me. Um, but yeah, so that's I guess it. Definitely a
Yeah,
big help.
yeah, same. It's not verbal. What's that? God's is not in the strongest, is not in the storm, is not in the ocean, is not in the word of, is in the still small voice, and it's that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it is that you say it, and then as you're speaking it, the just
exactly.
clarity.
No, for sure. And I think for me, I wanted to hear the voice. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been enough for me.
Mm,
So I really recognize myself in the character I was just describing because she's really pissed off at the gods. It's like why don't you have well they didn't have faces. It's like why are you not like being real with me and stuff like this. And so I wanted God to just be like I don't know my uncle I could speak to or someone. Like hey tell me how to do this. And I think one thing I heard someone say
that's
once. Yeah, go ahead.
no. You land.
That
I remember.
that prayer, if you're not getting what you're praying for, you're probably praying wrong. Like your prayer is not good. And to me, that's really been very true over the last couple of years. And I've been learning how to pray properly in the sense that it helps me.
Yeah, I still prayer, I think, is one of those things I'm gonna have to wrestle with till the day after the world ends because um even when I feel like I'm on top of it, I still have to work hard just to maintain not good, not declining. And it's often because, like I said, the biggest why I've got for it is including it as part of an ecology of practice.
Mm.
And then it's got to function among a body of other practices. Uh, but often, like you said about wanting to hear voices, I don't know if I would be scared to actually like hear a voice. Um, even a lot of the like my most surreal um spiritual experiences have been um whilst I'm going through them, I'm like constantly thinking like no more like I don't need to see any angel. I'm fine. I know I will be afraid. Don't tell me don't be afraid. I know no I will be afraid. I will be afraid. So I'm also probably included in the fact that I grew up hearing stories about witches and like spiritual dark practices in Nigeria. So I'm and watching Nollywood films that include a lot of those sorts of imageries.
Mhm.
So I'm very wary of like actually encountering spiritual experiences. A little bit of buffered self isn't
Yeah.
too bad for the soul, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I never even thought about that as a kid. Like I was just like, show me something, like it'd be awesome. Like let's just let it happen. And so
I do want to learn. I do wish I did used to pray for the gift of prophecy because I thought it'd be so cool when I thought it
yeah,
was fortune telling.
yeah, exactly. It's like I got something you don't. But I guess that's magic then. It's like something I think I recently heard this from someone who was reading this book and they were like equating the magicians to the scientists of today. It's like look at how manipulating this matter. And it's like, oh, that's magic. Okay. Steer very clear. That's our modern day thing. Okay, I have another question that's definitely, let's say, off topic. Um, well, I think a lot about nature because for me, nature is very close to God in a sense. It makes a lot of sense to me. So when I go to the forest, like things are making sense. And this is a question I've struggled with a lot, and it's that um, where does something stop being natural? Let's say because in a sense we are all of nature. I don't know if you have anything
Mm,
interesting to say about this. You probably do, but Like, is there a line? Is there a border? Do you think about this yourself ever? I don't know what your relationship is to nature. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, I could very easily slide into a form of pantheism,
Mm,
um, because of the emotional connections to nature's trees, especially for me. Um, most of my childhood was spent climbing with trees and playing football. Those were the two things I did, and um, so I yeah, yeah, like I said, I could very easily pantheism, and that question of where the line is, I don't think I've got an answer yet, but um, intuitively, I think it has to do with agency,
mm,
and I'm thinking in terms of the Genesis creation story, where Adam gets to name the animals and he gets to have the dominion over the creation. So I think that's where the line is. But in terms of the godness of nature and
yeah.
like the uh I yeah, I can very easily slide into pantheism because I do believe there are spirits to forest and like the sea and all these things.
Yeah.
So and I was I my I grew up in a lot of like Nigerian uh spiritual practices are to do with nature. There's the god of Shango, or the god of the water, the mistress of the sea. All this sort of spiritual connotations come into mind, and I don't think them to be just fables.
Mm, yeah. I'm wondering if the term like God or gods, let's say, if it's adequate for all these powers, because more and more I feel that we throw the word gods around so much. I study Egypt, so we have like a lot of gods that we speak about. But I think a lot of people that are, let's say, in polytheistic religions maybe don't even experience it as multiple gods, more like lower emanations. Like how with Marduk, Mesopotamia, Peterson often speaks about. Like you have a hierarchy to things, and they're more like angels
Yeah,
almost. I don't know if that's something that those people themselves also recognize, or if that polytheism is mistaking the angels for the gods, or like the powers for the
in my
absolute.
in to the best of my knowledge about the Yoruba tradition, which is like what where I'm from,
Hmm.
the it's it's more the latter. It's more the acknowledgement of lesser gods,
Yeah.
and then the um Oduduwa, for example, is like the god of gods
Mm.
in the Yoruba mythology, and under that Oduduwa, then there are the Shangos and the thing, but the people only ever interact with the smaller gods. Oduduwa is sort of beyond them, so there's an acknowledgement of like these gods are created by the one true God.
Yeah.
The identity of this one true God wasn't made clear, and I think it's only made clear through the person and the story of Jesus Christ. Uh,
Mm.
but in a lot of cultures, are understood there to be like yeah, like you said, angels or gods or heroes or like whatever term we want to use for them, that
Yeah.
are spirits, higher spirits than just nature as
Hmm.
as we understand them.
That's a really good answer. I really like that. Also, it's nice to have insight where you have actually a real connection to, let's say, a tradition that actually deals with that. Because I think I definitely don't really have that in my environment. I'd love to just speak to the Egyptians, like, what's up? What's going on? What's this? Tell me. Because
It's
sometimes I
yeah,
would,
it's
yeah, go ahead.
no, go on.
I would have like someone do a presentation in my class about like an Egyptian god or something, or gods in general. And the teachers were all there, and I'm like, but what does it mean? Like, what is a god? Like, what do they do? And what what is the function? I'm really trying to understand, and they have no idea. They're like, don't know, and it's almost like they don't care. Like, we speak about them so much, like we know all their names and stuff. We have to memorize all these things. We know how to recognize it. And I'm like, what does it mean? What 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 role does that play? And that, I don't know. I feel that's lacking. So I don't think we'll ever really truly understand some of those ancient traditions. So it helps that there's people in actual traditions that have something similar going on to understand that at least.
I don't think we'll like even the little we do understand, I think we'll probably will come to find out that we're at least hugely mistaken or at worst completely wrong about our assumptions about previous
Mm,
traditions, religions, and civilizations.
yeah,
Because it's impossible for us not to read back into the past. So yeah, I agree with that.
that's interesting. Like reading back into the past, because you never can really be objective. I feel it's something we really try to do, in university. Like, let's take not a Europe centric view. It's all what we speak about. So they want to like banish also like BC. I put BC in my paper, and they like smacked it, just using.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's where it's going.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I was hoping for good feedback on my paper, and then I got just like 500 words about why I shouldn't use BC. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Oh gosh. That's what we've come to.
Yeah, yeah. Not the
Oh
greatest places to be, the universities,
yeah.
but we're still there.
It's funny, like Peter, like in 2015, 16, when Peterson was looking crazy, talking about the institutions, the universities are going under, they're being taken over. Um, I was at university and but not really paying attention to a lot of this, mainly because I was in STEM and we didn't really, yeah, we weren't having conversations like that. We just needed to make sure the equations were right. Um, so I was just like watching, sort of amused, and then as time goes on, it's like, wow, boy, were you right?
I think everyone feels that way, but that's like
It's
that's his role, to recognize something before it goes absolutely bad. And then he's so passionate about it that people often don't understand his anger. Um, and I don't necessarily think that
yeah,
anger is the right stance, but I understand why he thinks this way, because he sees the slippery slope so well. That's what he's fulfilling.
yeah.
So yeah. Speaking of more like Petersonian topics, I wanted to have this last bigger question for you, and that is, what is the proper stance in times of diversity? You've had what many people would describe as like a rough upbringing, at least externally. So I've seen you speak about it more lightly. What is the right stance throughout adversity? And I don't know if suffering is the right word.
Um, the the honest answer is I don't know. The one that comes the best I can give right now, and I'm sure it would change if you ask me another time. But right now,
Mhm.
the best I can think of is gratitude. Um, I the biblical the Bible is full of stories of so many different ways in which people go through adversities, and the the stance that I like to take is that God is good through it all sort of stance. And if God is good, then okay, I've got evidence. What can I point to as evidence of God being good right now, despite the adversity? And if you ask yourself that question, you will always find things to point to.
Mm.
If Even if it's only just the fact that you're still breathing. Um, but I think, yeah, that's my answer in this moment will be gratitude is the stance to take in adversity.
That's really beautiful. I would hope that I would have that, you know, in those moments.
Me too.
But
Me
I
too.
think it's like scratching an itch when you turn into uh, an angry person or like I always had this question. Like when I was in deep pain, I think last year, I was in a lot of pain. I had an infected leg, and my leg blew up twice the size of what it is now. I couldn't see my kneecap and everything, and it
Oh,
made
wow.
no sense. Yeah, it made no sense why I had this, but I first started being like, why? Like, why? You know, like,
Mm,
and
that's
similar, yeah,
that's
similar,
a go-to response. The why.
yeah, the why. I think everyone does that at some point,
The but
usually.
the Psalms are full of whys.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And so I think at some point, similar to the complaint against the gods that I spoke about, you just start to hear the ridiculousness of your own words. Like, why not? You know, like what are you complaining about?
Oh my gosh, have you had a conversation with Jesse yet?
Who's Jesse?
Uh, Job. He talks about Job a lot. That's how he's known.
Ah, okay, okay.
And yeah, oh my, I would love to watch a conversation between you two because
I'd love to.
he's answer to the question you just asked me. I would love to. I would love to. I'm sure it would involve Job somehow, but the way he talks about it is beautiful.
Oh, that's beautiful. Please send me where I can find
Yeah,
some of his stuff. I'm very interested.
I will.
Yeah, but I think it's an ideal for sure. Gratitude in those moments. I hope I can live up to that because I think we're all going to face some or a lot of adversity at some point. Um, are you optimistic
Sure
about?
feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Are you are you optimistic,
um,
Tayo, about the world?
my my optimism should be a cause for concern for everyone else because similarly to how I said Canada must be under a lot of pressure to be producing a lot of diamonds. I am saying the world producing a lot of diamonds and that's cause for optimism, but also makes me feel like, oh, someone's cranking up the heat on, and yeah, we're cooking. I don't know if we're gonna like what we're cooking, but we're cooking.
We're kicking for sure. Okay, I've loved each and every one of your answers, and I'm gonna listen again for sure. And I'm really excited to speak again to see how many other answers to questions you will have next time. But it's been really nice. I don't want to keep you in the cold any longer. Best of
It's
luck.
actually no, I am so, but I've truly I always love our conversations. You ask great questions. I'm excited for your channel. Um, I love the fact that you've been consistent and putting in the work. It makes me happy whenever I get a notification that you've uploaded it. Like, yes, it's still at it. So thank you for giving me a chance to be a part of something great. And I think yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have the best of luck with Paul. Please enjoy the coming days, and
Will do, sir.
I'm excited to check back in soon.
Thank you and God
God bless
bless.
you. God bless you, sir. Bye bye.